Hello friends, I made this for. My name is Lauren. I just got done recording one toxic spirituality video and it made me remember that there was another thing I wanted to talk about. But it was worth putting its own video together because today I want to talk to you about why, talk to you about the problematic relationship between the spiritual community and Western medicine. So let's dive into it. But before I do, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy the content, if you resonate with what I'm saying, and even if you don't, share it with a friend, an enemy, a family member, or someone that you lust after, because why not? Share the message. I love you. Returning subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. And if this is your first time, hi, hello, welcome. I am a spiritual small business. I do all sorts of readings with tarot. I love Reiki. I love astrology. I love all of these magical tools. And I absolutely love calling out some hypocrisy and bullshit when it comes to the spiritual world. Today, I want to talk to you about why spiritual communities hate big pharma and why that's actually kind of toxic. Now, let me just say this. I'm not here to yuck nobody's yum, and I'm certainly not here to dictate what is and isn't right. But what I am wanting to share here is some reflections that I have noticed are super fucking problematic. Mostly because I have been seeing and have been affected by the anti-establishment rhetoric around medication. So for those of you who don't know, I take Lexapro and Wellbutrin daily. I have been diagnosed with OCD, ADD, anxiety and depression. I was diagnosed very young with some of these things. In my history, I was on medication for years. I never really found anything that really worked for me. I was also forced on medications. And so that made me really want to get off of them. And so once I finally found my spiritual community in college and had a really great toxic relationship that convinced me to get off my meds with zero help, I went for it. But why does the spiritual community hate medication, specifically medication for mental health? So I think a lot of this goes back to the fact that Americans in general have a very bad relationship with the medical system. And I think ultimately it's very justifiable. We have a for-profit process with our healthcare system that really makes it difficult to even afford to see a doctor. In fact, being able to have a regular doctor that you see is very much a luxury in this country. There are so many Americans who are uninsured or underinsured right now. And of course, it's one of the reasons why I love my boy Bernie, fight for the people. But this creates a divide. Since people see our medical system as a for-profit company, there can be a lot of seeds planted for distrust, and that's not unwarranted. As we saw in the 90s and early 2000s, there was a lot of pushing for certain drugs, and those certain drugs ended up having very harmful side effects. As someone who lives in Philadelphia and not that far from Kensington, I can tell you firsthand that America's relationship with painkillers specifically, the side effects of those are being played out in the very city I live in. So this is not to say that the distrust is unwarranted. However, as I stated in my high and low vibration video, my purity culture video, and my binary problem video, there is very black and white thinking when it comes to the spiritual community. I think that's because there's also a connection between Christianity and the spiritual community. And with Christianity, it's very black and white as well. You either believe all of it or you believe none of it. And this creates a lot of tension within folks. But again, I also really agree that it has to come back to the fact that we as Americans lack really proper access to the healthcare that we need, and that relationship with healthcare is so strange and problematic that it makes it hard for a lot of folks to trust on the surface what is going on. So, as I said earlier, I was forced on medication as a child, and this, of course, already built a very not happy relationship with medication. But when I finally had a mental breakdown years later, I didn't get back on medication. It wasn't until I had my second major mental breakdown that I actually reached out for help. But it took me a really long time. And this is why I believe that this relationship between medication, or the Western world of prescription drugs, versus the holistic, hippie, granola crunchy lifestyle, is so at odds. As I've said in other videos, the spiritual community likes to focus on the purity of thoughts, purity of food, making sure to exercise. These things all do have a very real impact, and I'm not here to negate that, but unfortunately, they do not equate for everything that could be happening with someone's mental health. I am I have a genetic predisposition that leads me to suffer from anxiety and depression a little bit more than maybe someone similar to me, because I have a family history. But when spirituality looks at that, it looks at everything through the scope of how do we use alternative medicine only. And this is super problematic for folks like me that have very extreme levels of depression and intrusive thoughts that I am not in control of, no matter what someone says, because no matter how many positive affirmations I listen to, no matter how many hikes and yoga I did every day, no matter how much fresh food I was intaking and all the herbs to support my mental health were ingested, it didn't make a difference. And of course, someone with schizophrenia is not going to get the help they need by doing those things either. So the question becomes, how do we honor ourselves while integrating this wisdom, the wisdom that could be used with Western medicine to really support folks? Well, one, I think it comes down to destigmatizing it. We have gone so far left, it's really hard to find our way back. I think ultimately my hope for all people is that everyone has access to what they need. But the truth is, access to healthcare in this country is a privilege. And we have to acknowledge that that's a very real fact as well as a very real problem. If we are not going to just accept that this privilege is totally awful, we will never be able to bridge this gap. I feel like in this country, Western medicine will always be demonized if it's always put in a place where most people cannot even access it. And one of the things that I think helps to make this problem so much more difficult is there's so many grifters out there. There are so many people who honestly believe that their one-size-fits-all solution is the be-all, end-all. I talk about this in my video, The Honest Grifter. So many people believe that their solution is the solution for the world. And the problem is that's binary thinking. It's not one size fits all. Not even with medication. I've tried so many medications, and it took me a long time to find the right medication that has stabilized my mood, stabilized my anxiety, so that I just function better with more ease, rather than constantly trying to punish myself the way I think, and how to make sure that I'm not giving in to big pharma. Again, I'm not saying big pharma is my daddy, but can we acknowledge that saying that all pharmaceuticals are evil is super problematic, especially to folks that legit need their medicine to live? We couldn't say to anyone who was going through cancer, you just have to think more positively. So, or say to someone with diabetes, you just need to think more positively and they'd be healed. So why do we do this in the spiritual community to folks with mental illness? With that said, folks, that's where I'm going to leave it for today as a quickie. I really implore you, if you need help, if you need medication, there is nothing wrong. You are not changing who you are. You are not lowering your vibration. You are not just a cog in the medical system machine. You are taking care of yourself, and that is radical as fuck. So, if you enjoyed this video, like I said, like, comment, subscribe, share this with a friend, family member, someone that you love or lust after, and maybe even someone you hate, but just know that they need this message. Because I think we need to reevaluate as a spiritual community how we treat the topic of Western medicine. It's not to say it's the end-all be-all. I know that holistically we can integrate both with so much beauty and grace. We don't have to be extreme with our views towards medication, towards food, towards the education system. We can be more discerning than to just dismiss the whole thing, throw the baby out with the bathwater. No, friends. We have to do better, because otherwise folks are going to get hurt. With that said, if you want to support me, like what I do, check out the links in my link tree down below. Make sure to take care of yourself, drink some water, go outside, hug your friends and tell them you love them. And as always, I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.